Who's still sad? All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a third of the PesterLine podcast. I'm Sean, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about Chris MacFarland. I'm sure you've all seen he took the job in Nashville as the GM and president of hockey operations, which is a promotion from what he had here in Colorado, where he was just GM, assistant GM before that. I wanted to look at what his legacy looks like, because he stepped into a situation that from the outside seems easy. He inherited a cup-winning team. And for what it's worth, before he took over as GM officially, it's hard to tell what he was doing with Sakic. I think there's some proof somewhere that he was the guy that got the Duchesne trade across the finish line, which obviously helped us greatly in our years leading up to the Cup and even now. So I wanted to go through it, and I wanted to get your guys' opinions, your thoughts, your takes. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. I love that. And look back at what Chris MacFarland brought to the Avs, what he didn't bring to the Avs, and what he might do in Nashville. So before we dive into what he didn't do, what he did well, what he did poorly, whatever your view on it is, we need to look at what he walked into. When he got promoted to GM full-time, he stepped into a pre-built Stanley Cup roster that he may or may not have had a small or large hand in. Like I said, it's hard to tell. But he did walk into a team where his responsibilities seemed to be maintain the championship window, manage your cap as best you can to keep this team as together as possible, which hockey fans like myself, like the other two guys on this show, like you guys watching this probably, know that managing a team and keeping a team together is not the easiest thing to do. Everybody wants to go out and get their big payday after winning the Cup. Everybody wants to go out and secure that long-term deal that secures them for the rest of their lives. And you can't fault anybody for that, but that's what makes what MacFarland walked into a little bit harder than I think most people might realize. Let's get it out of the way. What I think is one of the better moves MacFarland made, the Rantanen deal. I know this splits the fan base pretty heavily on who thinks it was good, who thinks it was bad, who thinks it was absolutely asinine that they did this. Personally, I think it was a good deal. Mainly because if the rumors are true, and whether you believe what you see on the internet or not, Rantanen wanted a big payday, and he was being hard negotiations. We had contract disputes in the past, and you cannot, no matter how much you want to hang on to a guy like that for a deep playoff run, let him go for nothing. See Paul Stastny. It's bit this team in the ass before, and I have to respect the fact that MacFarland had the oomph to pull the trigger on a deal like this. And not only that, but bring in a player in Marty Necas that fits the mold of the Avs almost perfectly. Now, you can argue that he's maybe not used properly here to his full extent. Him and McKinnon seem like almost exactly the same player, which at the beginning resulted in them being in the same spot at the same time, trying to play the same spot of the ice. But as he grew into the team, he fits this team so perfectly. And I'll say it again and again, that is the main reason that I really do like the Rantanen deal. That is the main reason that I really do like the Rantanen deal. It sucks that he came back to a division rival because he didn't want to play in Carolina, but different episode, different time. Somebody else can talk about that. And then to also get a guy like Jack Drury, who is just a workhorse in the bottom six, winning faceoffs, great on the penalty kill. One of the only guys that showed up consistently in the Vegas series. I hope he resigns here. Looking at other things that he did, bringing in two new goaltenders when the goaltending wasn't working at all was impressive. Whether, it got shaky at the end, but the way that the Avs played in that series against Vegas, you could point the finger at anybody except Logan O'Connor and the bottom six. They played great. The top guys kind of let the team down. The coaching didn't adjust. Our power play was trash like it was all season, which is surprising for the talent level that this team has. You put Necas's playoff performance aside, he's a good option for this team. I hope he can figure out his playoff performance. He still had 11 assists, I think it was, which is incredible. But that Vegas series, the whole team was rough. And when you look at it, getting swept is bad enough, but getting swept because you're letting another team dictate the pace of play. Rate of play. Playing to their game plan, looking like you don't want to be there, getting dominated physically throughout the games. I know they put up some fight. They tried. They played maybe 2 good periods that whole series. So when you take that step back and look at what happened there, something had to change. You go 8-1 into the Western Conference Final and get swept. Something had to change. They've already shook the core up with the Rantanen trade. They revamped their entire goaltending tandem. It sounds like Sakic is probably never going to fire Bednar. So you move to the next best thing and replace your GM. And I hope with Sakic stepping in, it's a good step forward. But we'll see what happens. So the question that we run into is, was MacFarland good enough? And is good enough what this team needed? I don't think the issue with MacFarland's tenure is that nothing worked. Some things did work. Some things didn't work as well as maybe we hoped, but there are things that worked. And I think the issue is that we, as fans, were holding him to such a high standard with the team that we have here in Colorado that his margin for error is almost non-existent. Every deal he made had to hit or it was a failure. At least that's what it seems from some of the online discourse that I see. And that's where things can get a little bit messy. The biggest recurring issue, obviously, was our center depth and forward depth in general. We hit times where we were playing half of the Eagles roster in our bottom 6 and some on the top 6. Now, that's not necessarily the fault of the GM. Injuries seem to cripple this team more than any other regularly. We lost Landeskog for 3 years due to a fluke skate cut. That doesn't help. You look at what Landeskog brought to this team this year in his first year back fully healthy, and I thought we weren't ever going to lose another game. So being without him for 3 seasons did not help. The timing of the cup win, being in the flat cap era still, didn't help. If we had won the cup now, with the cap going up exponentially every year, maybe we keep Kadri. Maybe we don't have to trade Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat, for Charlie Coyle, for Kadri back, for Brindley. As much as I love Gavin Brindley, the route we took to get him and what we gave up kind of sucks. Not every move was bad. There were quite a few questionable moments, which for any other team, like a team like San Jose, a team like Chicago, even a team like a Utah and Anaheim, doesn't hurt as much. But a team like Colorado, in their cup contention window, with your two of the best players on the planet in their prime, questioning moves matters. Again, Mikko Rantanen, there were a lot of people that hated that trade. I get it. I understand where they were coming from. But I don't think it was a reckless move. I think it needed to happen. But because of that trade is under a massive spotlight. Personally, I think it was a good deal. Again, I'll reiterate that forever. Because of that and some of the deals that were made and some of the deadline decisions and the amount of questionable deals that he made, for me, I think MacFarland's tenure in Colorado was mediocre at best. I land somewhere in the middle. I don't think it was terrible. He didn't tear the team apart. He didn't slam shut the window. He didn't trade massive pieces for ridiculous returns. He was just okay. And that's not good enough. Because when you look at this team and you look at what they've accomplished, they've been out of the second round 3 times.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
2 times. They've been out of the second round twice. Won the cup once, got swept once. That's not okay. With a team like this, you should at least be getting to the Western Conference Final more than twice. You should have more than 1 cup at this point. If we're building like the Blackhawks in the 2010s, and the Kings in the 2010s, Tampa, Florida, we should have, I think, looking back, even just 1 cup for this roster is at least somewhat of a disappointment. And that's the key thing for me. This wasn't a rebuild. This wasn't a retool. It wasn't figure it out, see what happens type of situation. This was a championship caliber team in their championship window with absolutely elite talent already on this team. Under that kind of pressure, good enough is not good enough. It's not going to cut it. I don't think anywhere that's going to cut it with a team like this. They should have knocked on the door of the Stanley Cup more than they did. And you could argue that that falls on coaching. I would. But again, I've said that in multiple other videos. I think coaching is a big issue. But looking at the GM rotation that we now have, there should have been more banners under MacFarland's tenure. And there aren't. We have division banners. We have another President's Trophy. But when you have a Hart nominee, a Norris nominee, the Rocket winner, the Jennings winner, you've got to do more than get swept in the Western Conference Final. And somebody had to pay the price. Now, looking at it, MacFarland paid the price by getting a raise and a promotion. It'll be real interesting to see what he does in Nashville with full control. And it might shed some light on what he was actually doing here in Colorado before he took over as GM. Looking at what he's inheriting in Nashville, it's going to be a bit more of a rebuild, or retool. We'll see what happens, but it'll be, for me, real fun to watch what he does with Nashville, knowing what he did the last few years with Colorado, and maybe that'll give us more of a glimpse into what maybe he was responsible for when Sakic was GM and MacFarland was helping out here and there. But that's just one dude on the internet's opinion. Am I right? Am I wrong? You let me know. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen moving forward with Sakic back in the chair full time? Is he going to go back to those crazy Devon Taves type deals where he trades a couple of picks for what ends up being a great defenseman for this team? Is he going to flounder a bit like MacFarland did trying to find a second line center? I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys think of what I think. Did the Avs leave too much on the table because of maybe not making certain moves at certain times? You let me know. I'm going to end it there. Don't forget to, drop a like, drop a subscribe. I don't know, hype it up or whatever the new YouTube thing is.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
And until I see you again, okay, love you, bye. The hits. Final verdict.